Today I wanted to show you how to maximize your efficiency with forScore so that you are spending the least amount of time in the app and the most amount of time making music. So let's dive in. First, we're going to bring up the navigation bar, and in the top right, we're going to go to this toolbox, and in the very bottom, we're going to go to settings. So very bottom is settings. We're going to spend a lot of time here today. So let's go into settings. And what I want to show first is this gestures thing. So let's go into gestures. So when you open up gestures, there's some things at the top that I'll get to it later, but I wanted to show you first on this general category, some various combinations of 1, 2, or 3 fingers, either tapping or tapping and holding. I'll even get to this double tap at the end. I wanted to show you some of these various combinations first. And the biggest thing that I've struggled with over the years is just remembering what each of them do. So let me show you what I've come up with so that I remember how to use them, and so I'm using them efficiently and doing exactly what I need to do. 2-finger single tap, I have it set to perform mode, which I use that so often that I want it right there. So to see that in action, just 2-finger tap to enter performance mode. So if you don't know, performance mode is the perfect thing to have activated when you are actually performing and you don't ever need the navigation bar to pop up at the top of the screen. So if you tap in the middle of the screen, instead of that bar popping up, it advances the page forward, which is what you need a lot of the time when you're actually performing. Even if you tap a little to the left, you'll see it's still progressing forward. Only in the very left side of the screen will it actually go backwards, right? Which normally I only ever want to advance forward. So this is what I always have activated whenever I am performing and don't need that navigation bar. And when you're ready to leave performance mode, just tap on this little X in the top right corner to exit and go back to normal. The 3-finger tap, I for the longest time could never decide what to do with it, but I've decided that something that I do often is I like to go forward to the next score or back to the next previous score. So to remember what 3 fingers does, 3 fingers tap for me is go to the next score, and tap and hold I have go to the previous score down here. So the 3-finger options are mirror opposites for me. So this 3-finger tap advances to the next score in my set list, and this is just anywhere on the screen I can tap with 3 fingers and it will advance to the next score. And then just to go to the previous score in the set list, I just tap and hold again with those 3 fingers. Again, anywhere on the screen will do this. And since these are mirror opposites, this is how I can easily remember what these do, because for the longest time I couldn't remember what my 3-finger options would do for me. For the tap and holds, 1 finger I have it bring to annotation mode, meaning that when I need to write something on my score quickly, I can enter annotation mode just like this by tapping and holding anywhere on the screen. And for those of you with an Apple Pencil, I'll show you an even faster way later what you can do with that outside of gestures. And then for 2 fingers, I find myself using the metronome a lot. Just 2-finger tap and hold to turn the metronome on, and then use that same 2-finger tap and hold to turn the metronome off. So in order to have the metronome turn on and off, you'll need to select this toggle metronome. This is what turns the metronome on or off whenever you do the 2-finger tap and hold. As opposed to just the metronome itself option, if you do that same 2-finger tap and hold, all that does is bring up this metronome tool, and it's already right here on the navigation bar. So I find myself not wanting to use that. I'd rather just be able to quickly turn the metronome on and off. And again, forScore remembers the last used setting on each score. So you can always set each tempo marking for each and every score that you need in a playlist, and then you just use that 2-finger tap and hold to turn your metronome on and off, never needing to go to the metronome tool. So my biggest suggestion is just to go through some of the options that are available in here. So see what you find yourself using most often. Maybe it's the metronome or the pitch pipe or the tuner. Maybe most of the time you're going to do a full turn page on portrait, but maybe every now and then you need a half-page turn. So maybe you want to go forward and back through scores like I do, or maybe you find yourself out using tabs a lot and want to go through your tabs or add tabs, and maybe you're using audio a lot or need to turn on the metronome, turn it on and off. Maybe you're sharing or importing a lot, using the piano or record function a lot. So just think about what you find yourself doing a lot of time and see if you can set up a way. Personally, I really like this mirror opposites. That way I remembered to use it more than anything. Other gestures you could have is in annotation mode. I find myself using undo a lot, so you can do tap for undo with 2 fingers or redo for 3 fingers, which I find myself using a lot of the time. So to see that in action, here in annotation mode, when you write something you'd like to undo, just tap with 2 fingers. And if you should decide you'd like it back, again, just 3-finger tap will redo. And again, these 2 and 3-finger taps are only for when you're actually in annotation mode. I don't use this split view very often myself, but shortcuts this corner taps I have turned off. Because when I have corner taps turned on, let's say I want to turn the page, and if I accidentally get too close to the top of the page, you find it opens up whatever I had most recently opened, which is often the settings thing for me. Or if I just use the metronome and I tap it, it'll open up that metronome again, which can be helpful. But what I find myself trying to do most often is turn the page when I tap on the right side of the screen. And I don't want to accidentally open up something else that gets in the way of the music and doesn't turn the page when I need it to. So please go down to corner taps. I turn this off. I don't want anything to get in the way of turning the page when I need to. Some other useful things to help with that, I turn swipe off, because if you accidentally swipe a little too much when you're trying to just tap to turn a page, sometimes you'll either swipe the wrong way and it'll turn the page the wrong way, which is what you don't. So I just have tap on myself. And finally, as promised, I wanted to show you what this double tap thing is. You can have it to be nothing, show the view options, which is what I would recommend, or toggle navigation. This navigation bar is just what this toolbar is, that when you tap in the middle of the screen, it'll turn it on and off. If you have it set to the double tap, you would double tap, it will bring it on, and that's the only way it would turn it on, which could be nice if you didn't want to accidentally turn the page. But to me, that's what performance mode is for. So I would rather have view options. So let me show you finally what view option does. So here's that quick double tap to bring up the view options, which at the top has some options for how it kind of zooms in on the scores for you if you don't have it cropped yet. Then you have some display options. If you're in landscape mode, you can swap between 1 page or 2 page, or if you're in portrait mode, you can switch between half page turns or full page turns here. This turns it to kind of a yellow color. This kind of changes how you have the toolbar show up, which I don't really need that, so I never actually use that myself. This last one is performance mode, which there's another way to activate it, which is even faster, I think, but it's here if you decide you need it. So that last thing is for the facial recognition to turn pages. Again, this is only available in forScore Pro, but this is how you turn it on and off the facial recognition part of it. All right, so besides gestures, some other really useful settings to make the most of your time is to have this auto lock turned off. This will prevent the iPad from dimming or going black whenever forScore is open. The one downside is that if you leave forScore open and you walk away, it'll just stay on indefinitely. So you'll either want to close your case or just exit forScore so you don't drain the battery too much when you don't need to. One other really useful thing has to do with an Apple Pencil if you have one. So let me scroll down under Annotation here near the bottom. This is Apple Pencil, so I'm going to tap on that. This first one is automatically enter annotation mode. So whenever you start writing with an Apple Pencil, it'll just enter annotation mode. And then double tap on the Apple Pencil to switch between the current tool, such as this pen, and the eraser. And again, double tap and it'll go back to the tool after using the eraser. And something that you might like to use in combination with this automatically entering annotation mode, if you go back to settings and right below Apple Pencil here is this annotation tool. So if you go into that, and down here at the bottom is your option to select the default tool. This means that whenever you enter annotation mode, it will always start with this specific tool. If you select none, it'll just remember the last used tool was, which might be an eraser or a stamp. But if you're in the middle of a rehearsal, maybe you always want to be able to start writing with the same pen. So you might choose to have this selected or whatever pen you'd like to use. And the final thing I want to show you is some things that you have available to you right here on the navigation bar. If you're in portrait mode like this, these buttons on the side will appear, or I believe if you have an iPad Pro, they'll always be there. But if you tap and hold, you can change them and customize them to what you find yourself doing often. So I share my scores often, or maybe on this side, you could set to add more buttons or enter rearrange or crop mode if you find yourself doing that often. Other useful things is if you tap on this gear, this is how you can enter those view options that I had shown you before. Or if you tap on these 3 dots, you can share or do some other things that are pretty useful as well. So there you go. That's my way to be as efficient as possible with forScore. So I'm doing the least amount of work possible to accomplish all of my goals in the app. Let me know, what are your favorite ways to be really efficient with forScore? I'm sure you've thought of plenty of things that I haven't, so go check out the comments, see what other people are adding to the conversation. And for spending some time with me today, I have a free music theory survival guide. Wherever you're at on your music journey, it'll be super helpful. Just go to joshring.com/free to download your free guide. And don't forget to check out my forScore playlist, where I have a bunch of other videos explaining some great things you can do with the app. Thanks and have a wonderful day.